All right, so now we're going to hand it over to Jeremy at ATS Global to talk about their project. So Jeremy, over to you.
Okay, appreciate it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about something that might be the other side of the pendulum here. Ben's project was pretty impressive, but the goal here is to say yes to any automation project. So we're going to talk a little bit about a food project that we did. It was a very unique project from a standpoint that the project was actually in progress or already been, I guess, kicked off, but they lost their internal resources, so their SMEs, other folks that were part of the project, and then their external resources as well. So they came to us and basically said, hey, ATS, can you do this? So a little bit of a challenge here from a standpoint of we didn't know exactly what we were getting into, but we had a chance to sort of view what was there. They had some restrictions on us as far as no unscheduled downtime, no major changes to the interface, and they didn't really have any information on their oven controls. So to put this in perspective, it was 8 ovens. They had a black box control in them. They really didn't have insight into the recipes. They didn't have good information about the system and very, very limited support. So if they had an issue, they would call in and it would take them months to get a response, if any. So they said, how can we do this better? What can we do? Also, we want to make sure that, you know, the platform, the way it was kind of built around a bunch of disparate systems pooling together. And they wanted something that was quick and easy, and it was kind of future proof. So optimization down the street. And then also from an education standpoint, they just kind of said, hey, we picked Ignition, but we really don't know this, or how do we even set this up, or what's the best way to do this? So we were kind of started from scratch, but with a project that was already in motion. So the theme of this webinar, right, is the ability to say yes. So we knew that the platform that was chosen would give us the ability to say yes, even if we didn't have all the details. So some of that breaks down into some pretty simple things like, you know, we know that we can give them one pane of glass because of the platform itself. We know that there's web-based development, so we can just launch them from PCs that were either existing, or if we need to put some more on the floor. We knew that the black box control probably wasn't going to be an issue because we were going to end up mostly rewriting what we needed to do, but we knew that from a recipe management standpoint or from any kind of database connectivity, we were going to be okay there. We also knew that using the platform, we were going to be able to monitor, control the equipment without the need for some of the other additional platforms that were already there. We knew from a change management standpoint, because again, there was a restriction of don't stray too far from what we have already, that using vision, we could create a similar look and feel, and that would help empower the workforce there. And then obviously flexibility with this platform and scalability was something we knew was going to be beneficial as well, right? The initial system that they had in place had multiple PCs, multiple licensing. We came up with, we were using Initiative Vision. So why do we use a Vision? Basically because it was similar to what they had. We demoed perspective, we demoed vision, and they said, wow, vision feels closer to what we're used to. We feel like we're going to be okay with this. We also knew we could put in the right architecture with just a single ignition gateway with redundancy. It met IT standards, met security standards. They also had legacy Windows environments that were in there that we were able to overcome with this platform as well. I believe actually some of it was Windows NT, if anybody on this call remembers those days. And one of the other pieces to the solution was pretty simple. They just kind of said, hey, we want to push button and make sausage, right? So the goal was, why do we have to go through all of these steps and click all of these buttons and use all of these pieces of software just to simply make sausage? So we like it. We're using text files, PLC files, pulling it into a database and all kinds of different things. But we knew with the inherent controls within Ignition, we were going to be able to take care of that for them. They also had some controls upgrades that were going on at the same time. So we also could incorporate those controls into Vision as well. So they could take those damper controls and now make them part of their recipe system. So there'd be dynamic feedback and changes. And of course, the other piece of it is always going to be the people portion of it. So we want to make sure that we were empowering the operators. We took everything that was being done or needed to be done in several manual steps and incorporated them behind the scenes. So their look and feel was still there, but it was being done behind the scenes for them so they could really simply push the button and do all of the things that need to be done when that came to recipe edit, creation, or additional functionality that was incorporated there as well. So consolidation and simplification is what we were aiming for. This is the end result, and you can see that there were some recipe tables that used to be their own thing. There was data alarms and events that was their own thing. The configuration for the oven itself, meaning the dampers and controls, that was also a separate system. So what we did is we were able to consolidate using that redundant pair right there and take them through one single database. So again, there was one single pane of glass that they could look through and built in that functionality so that they could simply just use their legacy system, because again, these ovens weren't the newest ovens in the plant, but they were the workhorses. They were the ones that made the money. So they didn't want to take them down. They didn't want to lose any of the functionality that they already had, but they wanted insight into what they could do. And so with that being said, I'll show you this next screenshot. They're definitely not as pretty as the last one. This almost looks like a carnival threw up on an HMI screen. But the intent was, yes, we can do it. They asked us, please, just make it look the same. We don't want to have to retrain operators. We're already dealing with a small workforce. So the answer is, yeah, we can do that. But what the beauty of Ignition was, it may look old. It may look like a clunky screen from the 90s, but it's very, very modern. So behind the scenes, behind the buttons, there was the capability that just isn't seen necessarily by the operators, but we took that worry away. The change management piece went right away. They recognized the colors. This definitely is not high performance graphics for sure, but they recognized the colors. They were able to easily do their job, so the transition was very much seamless for them. And then behind the scenes, we were able to add in some of that modern functionality as well on some of the screens there in the middle, where they could do a recipe file. The third screen down in the bottom right-hand corner, they could do some trending and running reports. They had manual control, so they could open and close dampers and see how things are going to work. So we're able to incorporate old and new into this solution for them. So the end result, as we were saying, yes equals success. So we were able to say yes, and we were able to successfully take this project to completion. A lot of what we did and a lot of what the platform allows us to do is build that trust. We listened and we're able to come up with a viable product. We were able to meet their requirements, not only from the shop floor, but all the way to the top floor with some additional reporting and some report outs that we were able to take that data and provide them to submit to the FDA so that they didn't have to do it manually with Excel spreadsheets and things like that. And we set the stage for future improvements for this company as well. From a empowerment standpoint, the operators now had the ability to control and make adjustments locally. They didn't have to call up to a control room. They didn't have to call the vendor themselves to do different things. We eliminated the need for a real SME, which they had lost that person that knew all about the things, gave them a simple solution for them so that they could feel that they were in charge of that oven system themselves. Minimal learning curve, allowed for faster decision making because they had the data at their fingertips. It wasn't spread across multiple different platforms. And then of course, rapid deployment, what everybody is always looking for. So this was IT approved. We had a simple architecture. And out of the 8 ovens, when we put the first oven in, we tested it, we ran it through its paces, shook out all the bugs, if you will, and then we were able to deploy the 7 remaining ovens in a fraction of times. In fact, it actually was, we did the remaining 7 ovens in about 2 days, and they are still up and running to this day. No issues, although they are calling us back and saying, hey, what can we do next? And we'd be glad to help them out. That's all I have.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your presentation there, Jeremy. I know this project to me showcases a couple of really important points. First is you may not know all the requirements up front, but working with Ignition, you know that you have a platform that's ready for any kind of challenge that's out there. And secondly, it shows how to really leverage SQL databases for more than just history. You could easily build robust recipe systems and store configuration. There's so much you can do with just Ignition and a SQL database. So again, thanks, Jeremy, for that amazing project.